Hey guys, this is Mark, and in this video we are going to be comparing a DSLR to a mirrorless camera, seeing what the differences are, how they perform, and which one you should pick up next. So first of all, let's look at what cameras we're going to be using. For our DSLR camera with a mirror in it, we're going to be using the Canon T3i. This is a really awesome camera, and I've had it for over 5 years. It's a little old, but they all really work the same. It's going to be a great option when we're going to be comparing it to a mirrorless camera. Speaking of that mirrorless camera, we're going to be using the Panasonic GH4. This is not the latest and greatest, but it's only a couple years old, and as for mirrorless cameras, it's pretty high tech, and it's going to be a great option to compare to the Canon. So one thing that stood out to me immediately when shooting with the Canon compared to the Panasonic was how it actually felt. The Canon is a lot bigger and heavier, more sturdy, but the thing that struck me the most was actually the tactile feedback when taking a picture. Now, you actually have to flip up the mirrors and it will close down automatically, and that's how mirrored cameras work. And you do get a very strong vibration and a loud click when that does happen. Now, on a mirrorless camera, there are no mirrors, obviously, and it's all digital, so there is really nothing that's moving at all when you're taking a picture. So it's kind of all simulated a little bit, and it's really not the same as a physical mirror inside your camera. So I shot the very first day using the Canon, and the second day I used the Panasonic. When I was out shooting with the Panasonic, I noticed that I cannot look through the viewfinder without the camera being on. I like to be able to put the camera up to my eye just to get a quick look at what I could be capturing even when the camera's off. I usually turn them off when I know I'm not going to take a picture for a little bit because they turn off automatically after a little bit of time, and I just don't want to waste the battery. So I just turn them off, and it's nice to have a mirrored camera where the mirrors are always showing into the viewfinder because it is optical and not digital. So it's just nice to put the camera up, see what you're going to take a picture of before you actually turn it on. Now, mirrorless cameras, there is no reflections going on, so that means the viewfinder is actually a tiny little screen. And if the camera's off, the viewfinder is off. There's no way to look at what you're going to take a picture of before you turn the camera on. That's a little disappointing, but it's really not a huge issue. I can just keep the camera on. Speaking of viewfinders, that's where I noticed a really big difference was the way it actually looked to me. So I've been using mirrored cameras for a very long time. I'm used to how they look, how to expose properly, and it's just an overall simple design. You have your little dots in the center for your focusing, and then on the bottom you have your aperture, your shutter speed, ISO, and your exposure meter, and that is really it. On mirrorless cameras, the viewfinder is actually a tiny screen, which means that they can throw in anything they want, and boy has Panasonic done that. There is scopes, audio levels, recording times, because I do have this camera set up for video recording. There is just a ton of stuff in that tiny little viewfinder. It's not overwhelming, surprisingly, because it's also small, but it gets a little cluttered because they can and do fill up that screen with as much possible information. Luckily, they do allow you to hide all that stuff. You can just go for the basics, just like Canon, with your exposure meter, aperture, and shutter speed, or you can go all the way up and have a built-in level right into your viewfinder. It's nice. A benefit of using a mirrorless camera is that you can actually preview the picture before you take it. That's something I like to do a lot on my Canon, but you can only do that on the screen, where this one, you can actually preview it right in the viewfinder. There are 3 modes. There is just a standard mode, which will automatically adjust the brightness of the viewfinder based on the lighting conditions, so you can see what you're taking a picture of, but it's not necessarily going to represent the picture you're going to take. Then there is just the standard mode where it acts just like a normal viewfinder. It's one brightness, does not change. Then we actually have a representative view where we can see the visible light cut through the electronic viewfinder as we adjust ISO, shutter speed, aperture, all that sort of stuff is going to change right in the viewfinder, which is actually pretty nice. You can see exactly what it's going to look like before you take the picture. And one thing about mirrorless cameras is that the viewfinder is a screen, and so is the screen. The screen is a screen. So there's no difference between the two. On Canon, you can view more information if you pop out the screen, where you get the same thing whether you're going through the viewfinder or the screen, and you can only have one or the other on at a time on my GH4. So you can't really view your information on the picture you're going to take. On Canon, you can use the viewfinder to take the picture, but on screen, you can view your aperture, shutter speed, ISO, white balance, quality, all that sort of stuff is right on the screen for you to look at. And when you do press the shutter, it goes off. But this one, you can either have one or the other, so that's kind of disappointing. And going back between these two, there's like things I like about one and things I don't like about the other. I like on the mirrorless cameras how there is an instant preview of the picture you just took. Because it is a screen, it's going to show you the picture you took. You don't have to open up the screen and see what it was you took. So that's nice, but you lose like a half a second when it's previewing that picture before you can go ahead and take another one. You can change that. It's just something I like and don't like about both. As for image quality, there's no denying that the Canon is just a beautiful camera. They make some really great pictures, and I love the way they look. The GH4, when it took a good picture, it was pretty good. I felt like dynamic range was not as good as the T3i, but it totally depends on the camera you get. I feel like the GH4 is out of focus just a little bit more than the Canon. It seems a little bit softer, but I'm not using a great lens. And then GH4 is just one of the cameras that are out there. Sony, that's mirrorless, and they take amazing pictures. So it's going to depend on all that sort of stuff. But for me, I prefer the actual shutter click of the Canon. You know when the picture has been taken. It seems like a half shutter where it opens but it doesn't close on the GH4. And overall, the pictures for me just look a little more professional, more for what I'm going for. But that is my opinion on mirrorless versus DSLR. Let me know what you think and what camera you use or planning on picking up. I'd love to know. Thank you for watching as always. Hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. This is Mark, and I'll see you in the next one.